Welcome to The Explainer. Over the next few minutes, we're going to be unpacking a massive 25-year tactical evolution in modern football. We're looking at the transformation of the elite center forward, going from an isolated artist all the way to a hyper-efficient tactical system. So if you love understanding how the game actually works at a fundamental level, you are absolutely in the right place. Let's get into it.
Okay, let's dive into this. How do you improve on perfect? For a long time in football, we really thought we'd hit the absolute peak of the center forward position. We had these clinical, perfect strikers who had literally one job, and they did it better than anyone else in history. But, sports never actually stop evolving. Tactical demands shift, right? And what was once considered absolute perfection, well, eventually that just becomes the baseline, the starting point. To understand how modern football evolved past a perfectly clinical striker, we first got to look at the prototype who defined the role to begin with.
Section 1. The Pure 9 Prototype, Brazilian Ronaldo, from 1994 to 2009.
Now, looking back at the tactical reality of the 90s and 2000s, the modern number 9 was a highly specialized finisher. These guys were completely unburdened by defensive work. Literally, the entire system was designed so the striker could conserve every single ounce of their energy exclusively for those explosive, lethal movements inside the penalty box. They were the tip of the spear, right? And the rest of the team was just the shaft that carried them there. And Brazilian Ronaldo was the gold standard here. His dominance was just absolute. Whether he was at Barcelona, Inter Milan, or Real Madrid, he effectively redefined elite finishing for an entire generation. But here's the crucial part. He heavily relied on midfield icons like Zidane and Figo to do the heavy lifting when it came to possession. Now, Ronaldo didn't invent the center forward position, obviously, but he proved a number 9 could completely dominate a match with basically zero playmaking responsibilities. Assist culture, it just wasn't highly valued back then. His touches were utterly ruthless. When he received the ball, he was either going to dribble straight forward or he was going to finish. That was the whole gig.
Which brings us to what is probably the most shocking statistic of this entire explainer. 0. During his absolute prime, Ronaldo averaged 0 pressures per 90 minutes. Literally 0. Now, to be crystal clear, this was not laziness. Not at all. This was a deliberate positional design. In the 90s and early 2000s, midfielders and wingers did the pressing. The number 9 was explicitly instructed to stay forward, save their legs, and just wait for the exact perfect moment to strike. It was a highly specialized, singular focus.
Which leads us to Section 2, the evolutionary jump, Erling Haaland and modern system demands, 2022 to the present.
So, jumping forward to today, we're no longer talking about a pure 9. We are talking about the complete forward. This is a striker who maintains that same elite finishing, sure, but now they operate as a central pillar within a high-intensity pressing system. They have to take on intense defensive duties and deep playmaking responsibilities. The role has fundamentally shifted. The striker went from being a supported specialist who just waited for the ball to becoming a completely integrated gear in this massive tactical machine where literally every single player is responsible for both attack and defense.
When you really look at it, the added weight and complexity here is just staggering. Take Erling Haaland since arriving at Manchester City. Yes, he maintains that clinical 10 out of 10 finishing baseline we saw with Ronaldo, but now he also regularly makes these deep drops to the left side of City's attack to receive in midfield areas and progress the ball forward. Plus, he engages in relentless high pressing. Honestly, just thinking about the physical toll of sprinting the length of the pitch to defend and then immediately having to transition and sprint back to finish a counterattack, it makes my lungs burn just talking about it. He isn't just the finisher anymore. He's the load-bearing pillar holding the entire attacking system up. To really put that into perspective, look at this number, 10 plus. Remember Ronaldo's 0? Haaland is out there executing 10 or more pressures per 90 minutes. That luxury of just standing at the top of the pitch and catching your breath, that's completely gone. Gone. Today's striker has to be a physical monster. And not just in that glamorous sprint to the goal, but in the grueling, totally unglamorous work of winning the ball back.
Moving on to Section 3, the statistical reality, comparing the numbers. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how perfectly the data proves this evolution. Let's look at it head-to-head. Ronaldo was lethal, sitting at 0.65 goals per 90, but Haaland, he operates at 0.85 plus. That is a 30% increase in goal efficiency. And because of his playmaking volume, Haaland's assists per 90 represent a massive 170% jump. We already talked about the pressures. Going from 0 to 10 plus is a complete night and day difference. And finally, box touches per game have actually increased by 40%.
100%. So Haaland isn't just working harder defensively, he is way more involved offensively, he's more efficient, and structurally he's just far more vital to the overall possession game.
What we're looking at here is a complete tactical inversion. The Ronaldo 9 relied heavily on intuitive box positioning, minimal deep ball progression, and basically played a pure specialist role with absolutely no defensive duty whatsoever. On the flip side, Erling Haaland utilizes heavily data-aided positioning, he regularly drops deep to progress the ball, and he acts as the defensive spearhead for Guardiola's entire system. The clinical finishing and explosive physicality, sure, those are present in both players, but almost everything else about the job description has been upgraded, expanded, or just completely flipped upside down.
Section 4, the synthesis, forging the complete forward. So bringing it all together, it really comes down to this. Haaland is what happens when a pure 9 is forced to become a complete forward. That is the central story arc of the last 25 years of football. Ronaldo perfected the art of clinical finishing. He was the absolute, undeniable prototype. But the game as a whole decided that perfection just wasn't enough anymore. Today, pure finishing perfection is literally just the baseline. You have to take that perfection and bolt it onto a player who is willing to press, progress the ball, and act as the tactical anchor for the entire squad.
Which leaves us with a pretty wild thought. If clinical perfection and relentless pressing are now just the bare minimum baseline to compete at the elite level, what in the world will the striker of 2050 look like?